Hello, YouTubers and all those who happen to watch. Decided to do a double whammy for some content from my channel here. And I was digging through my Magic the Gathering cards and I actually stumbled across this deck right here, which is actually my first official deck. The reason why is you'll see in a minute. But these were actually, or still are, cards that were from the tournaments, which are comprised of a bunch of different cards that are somewhat rare. In this case, pretty bullshit. That's what I find nowadays to try to build your own deck based off these. So, I mean, past that, they're certified just for, not nostalgia, but, novelty. So, I mean, you can use the cards, I guess, against your friends, but you'll pretty much be a jerk versus them because the only reason why these are, idolized or, put in these type of decks is because they were tournament winners. And at the time, I was going against my friends, borrowing their cards, their decks, and, it was becoming monotonous. I, stumbled into high school around 2002, and, no, trust me, it was earlier than that. This was just sophomore year. So I finally got my own deck, which the same year this deck actually came out again, which is in August 2002. So, with that said, I purchased this deck, and it was something I would say is pretty cool. And the funny thing is that there's actually blank cards, which you can see right here by my terrible handwriting. I have actually, wrote down cards and everything, and yeah, it was practically it was a troubling time, But I'll show you the cards or the deck real quick. This is what they look like, and you can tell full well if they're obviously not your standard deck. Your standard deck usually has the backing, kind of looks like a tome or some sort of spell book in the back, and you can typically tell if it's a Magic the Gathering deck. This is obviously not your standard Magic the Gathering deck. They got the Psychotogs, which, again, I'll read it to you real quick what they do. Discard a card from your hand. Psychotog gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Remember 2 cards from your graveyard from the game. Psychotog gets +1/+1 till end of turn. So again, it's a really brutal card, and the Odyssey deck, or I'm sorry, the Odyssey cards. This is the card this actually came from. Yeah, it's not a nice card. Let's put it that way. It's one of those BS kind of cards. And again, you have these assortment of Underground River, and it was a black and island deck, which was a swamp and island deck. And you have 4 of these cards here. You got the Planescape Familiars. It's just such a bullshit card or game card to pick because it was such an OP deck at the time. Now, obviously, you can't use any of the cards, I believe. I think they banned all the cards. They usually do that anyway. If you're bored to play with your buddies with this deck, you probably would hurt them a little bit. Nowadays, you have these crazy new cards, which I haven't really been keeping up too much with past that. And, this is interesting just to look back at this deck and just... It's a little nostalgia, I guess. The novelty of the cards are, I'm not obviously going to use these cards against anyone anymore, because I don't know one to play with. Forever alone. But, yeah, this was my first official deck I actually bought. I used it for a while until my friends insisted I bought my own cards, and then, or at least sat collecting them officially, because they were getting sick and tired of getting pummeled by this damn deck. Because it was like, it wasn't even a fair game to them. They would just lose every time. One of them would sit there with a complex going, just... It was not a good time for them. They eventually almost rage quit. But, once I got my own cards, it became more fair. I'd lose, they win, I lose. It was pretty much one of those type of things. We used to play around lunchtime, and for a time, a lot of teachers assumed we were gambling until we proven that it wasn't. And boy, all the thuggy kids got pissed off because they were mad because they couldn't play, cards or poker, but yet we could play Magic the Gathering, so they were kind of like, that ain't fair. And they were actually playing for money. That was the thing. That's why they the school was like, no, you can't play with those cards. Until we proved that we weren't, and it was an official card game, and it was math, and we threw the math bit in there just for a laugh. And boy did that sell it. They were like, oh, it's an educational game, because they didn't know. They didn't fucking care. They're like, all right, you can play it. You know, sometimes the teacher would sit down and watch. He'd lean over like it was like Clint Eastwood, like, it looks like Dan's gonna play that Psycho Talk again. Let's just throw it on that card table there and just let him go. You know, and just... Sorry, a little bit of a Jim Carrey joke there. But, yeah, I mean, that was my first deck. Do you guys have your first deck still for Magic the Gathering? I mean, some people obviously sold their decks and got rid of them. It kind of sounded like I said something else there for a second. You can insert the dirty joke, I suppose, but... Yeah, that's my first deck, and I think it's ironic that it's Sydney, because my friend Charlie's from Australia, even though, you know, So, take it easy, folks. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care. Some Magic the Gathering signing out. Oh, man.